Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Steve, hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you again. How are you doing, Steve? All right, good.
Yes, we were chatting off there, weren't we? It's the first time we've got our shorts out, our legs out for the first time this year, and I'm actually wearing a t-shirt without a top on for the first time for a long time. Seems like months, doesn't it?
Fortunately, nobody can see the bottom half of us, so they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to put up with that. You'll be pleased to know. So yes, it is. The weather is absolutely glorious. We've been off air for a couple of weeks or so, but we are back for a subject that actually I'm quite looking forward to talking about, Steve.
Yes, so this podcast is about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golfers, about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. Show number 57 this is. Now, we have covered in the past the mental side of golf in previous podcasts, and in particular, mental health in junior golf. Today, we're going to look at something slightly different, but not a lot different, because we're going to be looking at psychology in junior golf. And I'll give you some quotes here, Ian, right?
Yeah.
You have to guess some of the players who've said this. Of all the hazards, fear is the worst. Who do you think said that? I'll give you a clue.
Player.
A long time ago.
Arnold Palmer.
No, even Hogan. Further back than
that. Hogan, was he before then?
Close. Sam Snead said that. A bad attitude is worse than a bad swing. Someone who unfortunately has passed away.
I don't know. Tell me.
Payne Stewart said that.
Oh, I should have got that one.
A strong mind is one of the key components that separates the great from the good. And this is a great of the game. Someone who's won all 4 majors. Who's this?
Woods.
No.
Player.
Nicholas. Good man. Gary Player, yep. Be decisive. A wrong decision is generally less disastrous than indecision. Who do you think said that? And it's someone who has suffered from the putting yips on more than one occasion.
McIlroy. Recent, give me a clue. Are they recent?
Give me a clue. 2 times US Masters winner.
Comment below. It's not like 2 times Masters. Couples. Has he won it twice? 3 couples? Watson. Barbara Watson. No. I don't know then.
Bernard Langer. Right, I'll give you 2 more then, right? Under pressure, you can win with your mind. Who'd said that?
Nicholas. Sounds very Jack Nicklaus sort of quote, doesn't it?
Yeah, Tiger Woods. So very close.
He was my second guess. He was my second. If anybody knows, by the way, comment
just to give ourselves a little bit of the opposite sex as well. I push myself to the best I can be. I don't worry about what other people are doing. I don't think about things I can't control. Who said that?
Charlie Hull.
No, Annika Sorenstam, the best ladies golfer of all time. They're coming. So the point is, all things they're talking about mind, and that's at the top level of the game. They're talking about how much they need to control their mind to be successful at the top level. And we're going to be looking at that with mental golf performance coach Robert McCarthy today, who specialises in this subject, and in particular, he specialises with coaching junior golf as well. When you use the word psychology, you think, well, that's probably not for junior golf. Well, we're going to explain exactly the reasons why it is very important, not just for junior golf, for sport and for general health as
well. Did you know something, Steve? I didn't tell you this beforehand, but when I was just yay high, I studied sports psychology at Harrogate College. So this has always been a subject that's quite important to me. So I'm looking forward to it. Can I tell everybody though, first of all, how to get in touch with us? A few people starting to tune in. So good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome. As ever, the Progress Junior Golf podcast is interactive. So we want to hear from you guys this evening. Get in touch with us. Talk to us. We can't see you, but we can hear you. We can see your comments. Do get in touch. Wherever you're watching it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. There you can comment below. We can see the comments. Best place to do it is at Live Sport Now, though, on YouTube. There's a link in the body of this broadcast. Give it a click. It'll take you straight through to our page where you can watch this video and comment in the live chat, or just scan that QR code up there as well. Now, at any point, if you do want to find out more about Progress Junior Golf, you can. There's also a link to Steve's website in the text of this broadcast, wherever you're watching it. Give it a click. Maybe wait until after the broadcast, but I implore you to spend a bit of time checking it out. Steve, over to you.
Right, first things first, and let's do the junior golf news. It's 3 weeks since the last time we covered the junior golf news. So as you can appreciate, a lot has happened over the last few weeks or so. Mentioned earlier about the professional golfers and how psychology is important. We'll start off with a couple of stories from professional golf, though, but they do involve juniors or certainly young golfers as well. Firstly, Chris Kim, 16 years of age. Got a photo of him because he became the youngest golfer to make the PGA Tour cut in 11 years. The teenager was playing the CJ Cup, the Byron Nelson in Texas. He birdied the last hole on the second day to make the cut with a shot to spare, and he eventually finished 65th in that event. So really well done to Chris there. He got a sponsored invite to play in the competition, but more than justified it with his performances over the 4 days. So really well done to him.
Yeah.
What a player, absolutely. Another player mentioned in the news in the last podcast, mentioned on many occasions in this podcast. The Chevron Championship took place on the LPGA and Lottie Woad was involved. It's the first major of the year. It takes place once again over in Texas. And Lottie, well, she didn't just make the cut. She finished as the joint highest English player in the competition. Shot 71, 69, 73 and 74. Finished alongside Charlie Hull and Georgia Hall in 23rd position. So really well done to her. That was her major debut. Of course, we mentioned her in the last podcast because she won the Augusta National, the women's competition at Augusta. So she's having a cracking start to the season. So
never in doubt, Steve. Got to be honest, never in doubt.
No, I think we're going to see some very big things from it, and wouldn't be surprised if she's playing in the next Solheim Cup. So let's hope that is the case. Right, staying over in America then, the Terracotta Invitational, which actually is an adult competition, but it was won by a junior. Luke Colton won by one shot from another junior. So juniors doing real well out in America. Tyler Watts finished second. Past champions of this then, and they've not been going. This competition's not been going for too long. I think it's been going for about 20 odd years. Past champions include Justin Thomas and Matt Kuchar. So a couple of major champions have won that competition in the past. So not bad to get your name on that trophy. Staying overseas then, a couple of competitions took place in Italy. The Italian Women's International Amateur Championship, that was won by teenager Camille Min Gaultier from France. And the men's competition, we got the photo of the winner here, Magnus Becker Fredriksson from Denmark. It's taken place at Rovere, and he shot 70, 68, 68, and 72 to win the Italian Men's International Championship. So well done to him. And what a massive trophy that is as well.
Huge, isn't it? It's like the FA Cup now,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah, they get those in Formula One, don't they, sometimes, where they have the huge trophies that they have to pick up after they've just sweated so much.
If you are a Formula One fan, by the way, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yes, I did slip that in there for a reason, because it will get mentioned a little bit later. Right, staying in golf, though. Ellie Monk, another photo coming up here. The Helen Holmes Scottish Women's Amateur Championship was won by Ellie Monk. She shot 75, 72. That was on the Portland course up at Royal Troon. So she was 2 shots off the lead going into the final round. One under par round of 71 round the Troon's main course, which will be hosting the 152nd Open Championship in July this year. And she won by 2 shots from England's Nellie Ong and Ireland's Katie Lanigan. And how did she celebrate, Ian?
Having an orange juice.
She celebrated by having to do an economics exam the following day, so she had to go home and do some revision for her exam the following day.
Talking of trophies, though, Steve, I thought that looked like, because of the way that the picture's taken, you can't see the club head too well. I thought it was like a snooker cue. And it looks like I was like, did they get the wrong trophy or something? But no, nice trophy that. Yes,
actually, there was a question I was going to pose to you before we do this, actually, but I've started it now. But I'll pose it anyway. Spot the informed golfer, because there's some golfers who are going to get mentioned on more than one occasion as we're going through the news here. So I want you to pick out who you think is the real informed golfer this month. Right. So I mentioned there the Women's Scottish Open Championship, Scottish Boys Championship that took place as well, obviously up in Scotland. And the French, they did really well, first and second. So Luca Morin won from 1 shot from Alexander Godin. Third place was William Partner, English golfer. He was a couple of shots further back. The Scottish Girls Championship, though, photo of the winner here. This took place at Powerfoot Golf Club, and the winner was Royal Norwich's Chloe Tabard. biggest win of her career, basically, and pretty brutal conditions as well. The weather wasn't great. This was earlier in the month before the better weather came. But she shot 74, 75, 74, won by one shot from Nelly Ong and Ireland's Hannah Lee McNamara and Marlon News from Germany. So well done. Staying in Scotland then, the Bucks Tour finals, men's and boys, or men's and women's. The men's winner was Ross Laird. The women's winner was Lorna McClymont. And back in Ireland, the Lee Valley Scratch Cup, that took place. Jack Murphy won that one, 4 under par, 69, 69, 69, and then 74. He won that fairly comfortably, actually, in the end. West of England Championship, let's move that down to England then. It took place at Saunton Golf Club. The winner was 17-year-old Henry Stiles from Romford Golf Club, 76, 74, 68, 73. I was going to try and find a photo of him on the internet, but when I kept putting Henry Stiles in there, I just kept going Harry Styles.
These celebrities.
I don't think it was Harry Styles who won it, but you never know there. Runner-up was Harry Butler. And just a couple of weeks earlier was the John Cross Challenge Bowl. That took place at Worplesdon Golf Club, and the winner of that competition was Harry Butler. So one to watch out for there, an informed golfer there. Right. RNA girls, you won the 16s amateur championship then. Mentioned the French played well. They also did well in this one because it was a French winner again. It was Louise Langreth from France, won 68, 69, 74. Charlotte Norton from Longhurst Hall finished exactly the same, but Louise Langreth won on the second playoff hole. Third place was Olivia Castello. Now, we mentioned Langreth, and you might remember this actually last year because she became the youngest ever winner on the Ladies European Tour Access Tour last year. She was 14 years old when she won on the Access Tour last year. So that's another golfer to watch out for in the weeks and months ahead. Right. Welsh Women's Open Championship then, that took place, and the winner was Nelly Ong from Eton Golf Club, 11 under par, 72, 72, and then finished with a bang with a 67, won by 4 shots from Jessica Ross and Lorna McClymont. You're picking up on a few names they mentioned on a few occasions here, hopefully. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. One or two more competitions to come, and one or two more names are going to be mentioned. Right, boys and girls Fairhaven trophies. This is one of the big amateur competitions which takes place in England. The boys winner took place in England, overseas winner, and 2 Swedish golfers, first and second. So Carl Moller from Stockholm won by 1 shot from Edwin Askersfors. Third place was Jake Potter in that. They're actually the 2 Swedish golfers were level with 2 holes to play, but Moller finished par and then birdied the last hole to win by 1 shot. Well done to him. Best English player apart from Jake was Oliver Toyer, who got mentioned in the previous podcast winning the competition, and Henry Stiles, who we might have mentioned a little earlier.
3 times now. You've mentioned him more than anybody else, so it's got to be Henry Stiles.
So, girls' competition then, winner of that was Sadie Adams from Royal Burton. She shot 73, 79, 72, 76. Second was Ellie Lichtenstein. And third was Chloe Tabard. And finally, the Peter McAvoy Trophy, that took place at Cockheath Golf Club. It was reduced to 54 holes because of heavy rain. And the winner of that was Jake Potter. So, lots of names mentioned there then. Who was the one who got mentioned more often than anyone else?
I think it was Henry Stiles. You mentioned him 3 times. That's one more than Chloe and everybody else. So I'm going to say Henry Stiles and basically France. You said France.
You're kind of right. Nelly Ong also got mentioned 3 times as well because she won 1 competition and finished runner-up in a couple of competitions. But credit to everyone there because there's some fantastic golf being played over the last few weeks or so.
Interesting story as well, Steve. I actually was in Holland last week doing motorsport. I was at Zandvoort, the racetrack where the Formula 1 circuit is. Wasn't doing Formula 1. But anyway, on my way back on Sunday night, I was at Amsterdam Airport waiting for my flight to come home. And who did I bump into but my good friend who was on her way to Seoul play on the Ladies European Tour, but Ellie Gibbons.
Oh, fantastic.
That was very nice. I had a nice little selfie with Ellie. I should have uploaded it. I didn't think actually I should have uploaded it, but I had a nice little picture, put it on social. And good luck to Ellie, by the way. I don't know how she's got on, or day 1 will be done by now, won't it? So yeah, so good luck.
I know Charlie Hill's playing in that as well because I think it's one of the big one of the big events on the
Yes.
Ladies European Tour this year. So so that's great. Right, that wraps up the news. Then we are going to be covering golf psychology, and we're going to be talking to mental golf performance coach Robert McCarthy. You're going to stay with us, Ian, because we're going to have a chat about some of the things that we hear from Robert, and we're also going to have a little bit of dabble into Formula One as well. But we've got a lot to cover. So let's start off then. I chatted with Robert a few days ago about his journey into mental golf coaching, and in particular with regard to juniors. This is what he had to say about how he first got involved.
I've played golf from a very young age. My dad is hugely involved in our local club. He's been club captain and that kind of thing. I've obviously watch it every weekend on telly. In terms of, I suppose, sport has been a huge part of my life, and obviously still is. So I went on and studied a sports management and coaching degree after I came out of secondary school. Since then, I have gone on to do a number of certificates in golf coaching. I've gone on to recently done, I don't know if you've heard of a company called Flow Code. It's by a man called Rick Sessinghouse. He's coached Colin Marikowiak since he was kind of 7-8 years of age. Both swing coach and mental coach. So I've become a master coach, a Flow Code master coach as well. I have recently, just in the last couple of weeks, just finished a master's in psychology in the University of Wolverhampton. So that's kind of, I suppose, the academic background. In terms of actually golf coaching and the mental coaching side, I've done a lot with a bit with our juniors. Obviously, what they would do, they would meet up every Sunday. They do kind of 2 hours of practice. I suppose what I would do with them, I may take them for kind of half an hour, different groups, depending on how many kids we'd have. And it's just basically bringing in the small tips to them and small things that they can work on. So they don't actually know it's psychology, but you're doing kind of games and drills with them and certain skills with them, just to get them used to the whole thing. As I said, there's no talk of sports psychology, but you're still doing it with them while you're working with them. So just certain drills on kind of getting the ball close to the hole, just getting confidence up. I suppose the way that they hit putts, how they see a putt when they're going up to hit it and stuff like that. Just simple stuff. And I suppose the best thing about working with kids is that as soon as they hit a shot, as soon as something's there. So whereas obviously in at higher levels of golf and older people, that can be something that holds us back and actually causes us trouble. We can't forget about something that we've done or a missed putt we've had on the previous hole. So that's one great thing that I find about working with the juniors. In terms of, I suppose I work with a lot of, so we'd have competitions over here in Ireland. They'd be kind of Barton Shield competitions and Senior Cup, which would be the lowest players in your club. So I suppose it could be anywhere from scratch to kind of +6, +7. So I've done a lot of work with that team over the last kind of 3 to 4 years in my own club, just working with the players, working with the team, trying to obviously develop the mental side of golf with them. And I suppose within that, I would work with the managers of the teams themselves, and I would kind of do that separately. So I do separate sessions with the managers, especially before competitions will kind of start, and kind of see their feedback from last year, what was working well, what wasn't working well. And then from there, I bring that into kind of the sessions with the players themselves, and it would kind of give me something to go on. Then there's obviously certain things you can do with teams, and then there's certain things that the individuals actually want to work on themselves, especially when they're at that level. So as I said, it can be anything from team to working with the one-to-one then on certain aspects. Some may be struggling with their with forgetting mistakes. Some may be struggling with can be anything really. From some might be struggling with their pitching, some might be struggling with their putting. On the mental side, some might kind of find it certain holes very tricky. So they play poorly on the same hole all the time. So it's kind of just developing strategies to help them to overcome it. And then I suppose the whole team thing is more just getting the team better, getting the team ready for and prepared for competition, and kind of getting them into the right routines. A lot of stuff I would be on routines. So I suppose not only there's pre-shot, we'd have post-shot routines, but it'd also be getting ready when you're actually coming to the course.
That's Robert McCarthy just explained a little bit about his background of how he got into the mental side of coaching and things like that. Just explain a little bit. You mentioned the fact that you did a little bit of psychology yourself, and why did you do that?
Yeah, I did a sport and development course at Harriet College, and sports psychology was part of it. But I've always been a huge believer of psychology in sport. In fact, I think it's sometimes even more important than the physical side of things. And I use the example of, we're all fit enough to play around a golf, right? So we're all fit enough to walk around a golf course. I mean, I see people far more out of shape than myself who are capable of going around and playing. So the physical side of things isn't the problem. Now, yes, some people are just more naturally gifted. That's obviously a factor. But what another factor is, and probably a massive factor of that, is what goes on up here. And we all fluctuate wildly from shot to shot about how we feel. It's not just a case of, I wake up in the morning, I feel good, great. But then you can go out and hit a ball into the tree off the first tee, and suddenly it sticks in your mind. And then next time you get to the next tee, for example, you've got the driver out, the same club that you just whacked into the trees, and you see a tree on your left, and it's a bit closer than you feel like it was. And suddenly that plays on your mind massively. And I found that side of sport really, really interesting, because elite athletes are all really talented. Like, every single one is talented. Now, a little bit of natural ability can give you an edge, but here can give you the winning edge. It really can. And I often liken it to tennis, for example. Tennis is always such a difficult sport, I think. I think tennis is the hardest sport you can play, alongside golf, actually, because you're out there on your own. The golf, you're out there on your own, and you're out there for long periods of time, and only you can make the difference. Do you know? It's like if we play football, if I'm having an off day, I've got 10 teammates who can pick me up, or I can come off and be replaced and somebody else can come on. Do you know what I mean? But when it's tennis, when it's golf, you are the only one who can make that difference. And if you're not right up here, you will lose. It doesn't matter how good you are naturally. You might get away with it a little bit. If you're Rory McIlroy playing against me, for example, and Rory McIlroy's just woken up, terrible, thinks he's going to duff every single shot, he's still going to beat me because he's got natural ability. But if he's playing against Scotty Scheffler, or he's playing against Tiger Woods, if he's not strong up here as well, he ain't going to win. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to beat the elite unless you're strong upstairs. Right,
this podcast is obviously all about junior golf. Let's hear from Robert then, talking about the mental side of the game with juniors then. And the question I simply asked him was, when do you start coaching the juniors? At what age do you start?
We kind of start at kind of 6 to 7 would be the youngest that they kind of take kids on. And I suppose at that level, what I'd be doing, I suppose I suppose they wouldn't know that I'm actually, I suppose, a golf psychologist. I'm in there just as kind of a helper and someone who would be doing drills and doing games and that kind of thing with them. So it'd be kind of just, I suppose, I'd automatically just be bringing them games in, bringing these things in. I suppose by the time it gets to kind of 10, I would say that's when you need to kind of start, I suppose, letting them know kind of what's going on, why the importance of golf psychology, and kind of how it can help them. I suppose the earlier you can get it into them, the better, and the earlier they can get into kind of some of the I suppose simple routine college, and bring them into their game as soon as possible. Then I think that's the time to start it off. It's very difficult. I suppose I coach a good number of sports, and it's very difficult to pinpoint an exact time where you can actually start psychology with them. And I suppose that is that can be one of the difficulties. I suppose.
Okay, without giving away all your tips here, what subtle techniques do you use at those very young golfers to try and get into their head without them knowing that you're getting into their head?
Yeah, I suppose that there's a number of things I would do, and I suppose say if they're hitting a 7 iron, they're hitting whatever they're hitting. From my point of view, I would be kind of questioning them and asking them what they're seeing, where they're actually trying to aim the ball, and I suppose seeing from a golf coach point of view as well, as not just a psychologist, or a sports psychologist, kind of seeing where they're at. I suppose, if they hit a bad shot, kind of what have they done wrong? What can they learn from it? Um, and I suppose at that level it can be, and starting off, I suppose it can be difficult because I suppose at the age of 6 to 8, they wouldn't have a lot of time on the course. So what we are trying to bring in is to bring some of the routines that we would use with them, um, bring them onto the course as well. As I said, just simple things in terms of kind of, even if you're doing chipping with them, just getting little competitions going between them, and kind of, you might have 3 lads in a group, seeing who can get the closest to the hole. I would have kind of 5. So I'd have kind of, you can use kind of hula hoops or anything like that. Just put them around the hole, and say first time off they get 2 out of 10 into that hole. The next time, obviously, you're trying to work with them to get 3, bring that up to 4, bring that up to 5. And I suppose simple things like that, where you're actually really pushing them, but they don't know it's all a game to them, I suppose, because they're actually playing against someone, or they're saying to themselves, I got 2 this time, right, I'm going to try and get 3 the next time. And it's all about, I suppose, the most important thing is making sure that it's fun for them, and making sure that they're enjoying it. So I suppose with the kids, that's where it's easier, because they don't know that we're actually bringing in these simple techniques and tips, but they're still having fun and enjoyment at the same time.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it, Ian? He mentioned there about starting off at the age of 6, 7, and someone watching that first of all would go, really? You start at that young age? But that's the key thing, is the fact that you're doing it whereby they don't even know you're bringing psychology into it.
That's exactly. It's not like you sit them down and go, right, we're going to have a psychology lesson now. You know what I mean? It's very. And how often do we see this with junior golf, Steve? One thing we've heard in everything that we've done with the podcast, when you start them in golf at that age, is just make sure to have fun. That's it, isn't it? Really, really simple. And the same with this. Just make sure to have fun. Do subtle things so they're not even aware that actually we're setting them up with the right mindset to go forward. And it's always the same, and it'll always be the same. It's just finding the right techniques and the right methods to ensure that people do have fun, and they do want to stay in it, and they are able to get to a point where mentally they're able to do it. Because I have an 8-year-old. He doesn't play football. He doesn't play golf, so he plays a lot of football. And you see other kids, and they get very frustrated. It's not going away, and you see their mindset change very quickly, and you see their heads go, essentially, and they're 8 years old. So I think 6 is sort of too young. I mean, you know, we see young kids have breakdowns, don't we, sometimes, and things. So I think, you're not letting them know, are you? It's a subtle way. It's not like we're going to sit down and go, right, welcome to my golf lesson. For the next hour, we're going to talk about, psychology, etc.
I'll give you an example. Actually, we'll talk a little bit more about this in this, whereby one of the videos whereby I'm specifically interested in, because it was mentioned in this and it was shown, which is why it's going to come on a bit later on. But I went to another coaching session earlier this week, and it was a lady professional golfer, played on the Ladies European Tour, and she had a girls group there. And I think probably the oldest girl in there might have been 15, the youngest might have been 10 or 11. And it was very much, I was skeptical is the wrong word, but I was very much wary of how is she going to deal with that young age group. And there were points within that conversation whereby you could tell she was dealing with people who weren't quite mature enough yet to get what she was saying. Yeah. But at the same time, she handled it very well, and got down to their level. If that sounds a horrible thing to say, but you know what I'm saying, in the sense of got down to that fun level whereby she was getting into their heads without them even knowing that she was. So for example, and we will come to this a little bit later, she was doing whereby throwing balls into a bucket, visualization. We will come more into that, right? But I just want to hear a little bit more from Robert, because there was a question I asked him, and you mentioned there about techniques as well. Trying to get the balance between coaching technique and coaching the men's side of the game. This is what Robert had to say about that.
One said, I suppose he says that the game is 90% mental, and there's, I suppose, the mental side of the game is huge, and I suppose a lot of amateurs definitely don't put the time into the mental game that they should, and that can be one of the reasons they struggle. I suppose people think they have to go out and they'd rather go out and spend, I suppose, a couple of €100 on a new driver every year than I'll go and do a couple of weeks with a sports psychologist or a golf psychologist and kind of see, can that help me? So I suppose it's that, if you can get that into kind of, I suppose, kids early on, it can be a very important thing, and it can be a great thing, because they don't know any different. They don't know any different when they're growing up, and I suppose they're getting used to the whole psychology thing. But it's like, I suppose the technique is huge. Obviously, if you don't have the technique, then you're at an early age, then it's very hard to talk. And I suppose it depends what level you're working at with these kids as well, and I suppose whether I suppose they're just playing for enjoyment, or it's something they actually want to pursue, which comes into play, I suppose, more when you get to kind of that 12, 13, 14 age, and you can kind of see players developing, and you can see kind of I suppose the skill difference between some of them. But as I said, at the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, it's all about the enjoyment and having fun. As I said, once you make things fun for them, and they're very good at learning. I suppose they're like sponges. They'll take in kind of anything you say to them, and once they see that it's working and they're enjoying it, then they will keep going on that.
And you mentioned as well earlier about when you're doing this, it's not just a case of doing it with the kids as well. It's doing it with the team managers. It's doing with and in particular in my head, I'm thinking doing it with the parents as well, because the psychology, they have to be part of this process, don't they?
Yeah. Going forward, as I said, I suppose obviously you have the kids, but the parents are kind of the focal point of this. They have to, I suppose, believe what you're trying to bring in, what you're working on, whether that be technique, whether that be, as I said, swing, whether that be kind of working on their head in terms of psychology. And I suppose explaining to the parents about the kind of the process you're going through with them, especially as they get older. So if you get to 12, 13 and they're going into kind of, say, example, Golf Ireland, or going into golf academies, Golf England, I suppose that's when it becomes that's when it becomes even more important for the parents to know kind of what you're doing, what your process is, what the roles are, what the coach is kind of trying to do. I suppose psychology is such a big thing in golf that whereas some other sports you might just have, say, you just have your technique, or you just have, but golf plays such an important role psychology plays such an important role in golf itself, that it kind of has to be brought in an early age. And I suppose getting that buy-in from the parents and getting the support, and in them knowing exactly what you're trying to do and the kind of techniques that you use, then it can be very important. So, like, I suppose even getting the parents into a room before the start of the season or whatever it may be, and kind of explaining to them, right, this is what we do. We have a golf psychology coach, we have a golf swing coach, we've talked to the kids about a bit of nutrition or whatever it may be, or hydration, and just giving the parents kind of a heads up and letting them know, right, this is the way we do it. And I suppose the most important thing in what you're doing, and I suppose what a lot of clubs are doing, is trying to keep as many young people playing as we can. And I suppose that's not going to happen if you don't have the parent support. And there's, I suppose, one of the issues with golf, and I have my own kids. They're playing 4 or 5 different sports, and eventually it comes to an age where you kind of have to decide, or you have to pick between 2 or 3. So it's making sure, if my kid's coming home and he's saying, "Oh God, I had a great golf session last weekend. I really, really enjoyed it," the parents are going to be like, God, what are they doing there? Why does my kid want to go back there? And then they're more likely to bring them there because they're enjoying it and having fun. So I suppose it's all about, as I keep telling, going back to the enjoyment and the fun, and then kind of moving on to the next level from there after that.
I think that what he just said there, the last 10, 15 seconds there, Ian, kind of perfectly links in with what you just said about when you're taking your son to the football and some of the other kids there take it a little bit too seriously and get a little bit too emotional about it. If you're in that position and your son came back, what would you be thinking about whether you should be taking him there again?
Well, we've actually been in that situation in football, and taking our son out of a team and put him in another one. He was playing at a high level, and he was doing well. He was a good player, but there was an environment that we foresaw, that we thought, if we carry on with this, there was a mentality in the team. Bearing in mind he was 7 at this point, that was just win, 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 win at all costs. And that didn't quite sit right with me, because I didn't feel like they were developing properly. And it was the wrong mentality. It was the wrong psychological imprint to put on these kids' heads. So actually we dropped him down to another team, still in the same club, but we dropped him down to a team which was actually a few divisions below for a season. He had a great time in this team. They got promoted. He then got himself back to another team within, that's higher up. And since then, he's just been promoted back to this top team again. But it was the coach, original coach, is no longer there anymore. And a new coach has come over, taken it, and he's can change everything. And they've just won a cup, by the way. So that would have never happened 12 months ago with the other coach. And that was a mindset thing, because the players are still the same players. They're lovely kids. They're all great kids. It wasn't the kids that were the problem. It was what was being ingrained on them by the coach. And you could see it in the kids. And they're impressionable at 6, 7, 8 years old, aren't they? They have a big influence. And if an adult is saying, you've got to win, you've got to win, you've got to win, you've got to win, it was forgetting about development and all about winning. And so we had to take ourselves out of that situation in order to help our son grow. And now he's back in that top team again and doing really, really well. But we avoided a year where it would have been, I think, psychologically damaging, to be honest.
And do you think, well, obviously this is a golf podcast, we're talking about a football environment there, but do you think if they'd have taken that example there where Robert says, whereby bring the parents involved and had that conversation with you, a two-way conversation whereby you could obviously go to them, I don't think this is going to help children by taking this attitude. Do you think then that would have avoided those types of scenarios happening whereby you had to feel as if you took your son out?
Yeah, 100%. And I use that because that's a true story in our life. But every sport is the same. Be it golf, if you've got somebody who sits at the top in a position of responsibility, and they haven't got the right mindset, when you are a junior, you're going to be influenced by that. If I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions. I'm mentally strong enough to be able to say, well, actually, no, I want to come in, and I've had this as well as an adult in football. I want to play football, but I want to enjoy playing football. I'll be brutally honest. I play football, but I don't play for the top team, and I don't want to play for the top team because I don't want to take it that seriously, if you know what I mean. I want to play football. I want to play competitive football, but I don't want it to take over my life. And I don't want it to be a case, if we lose a game, everybody's miserable and upset. I want it to be, if we lose a game, we still go down the pub and have a pint and just, it doesn't matter, we'll play again next week, Now,
we are talking about psychology. This is the point I raised with Robert. When you use the word psychology, it can sound a serious subject. And how does that fit into junior golf? This is what he had to say about that.
Psychology, we automatically just think, and I'm going to use this phrase in terms that there's something wrong with us when we hear the word psychology. And I suppose one of the things I'm trying to do is kind of change that mindset, and get people to believe, right, okay, I'm working with a psychologist, but it's not because there's something wrong with me. It's because I actually want to improve my game or improve my sport or whatever it may be, improve my mental health, improve my fitness, improve my well-being. All them different aspects can be worked on by a sports psychologist, golf psychologist, whatever it may be. But I suppose it's only kind of, it's there to help people, and I suppose it's in golf especially, the psychologist is just as important, if not more important, than the actual swing coach. Because if the head isn't right, it's a very difficult sport to play. I suppose something I would always use is kind of, I suppose you're out there for kind of, you can be out there from anywhere to 4 to 5.5 hours, and there's no way anyone in the world can focus or concentrate for that long. So it's finding things to be able to block them out, whether you're finding distractions, whether you're some things I would do is you're singing to music on the way around or whatever it may be, you're looking at nature, different things like that, just to be able to distract yourself. One of the big things I would find about, I suppose, golf is that I suppose it's kind of proactive, and it's not kind of a lot of other sports, say Gaelic football that I would coach, or soccer, whatever it may be, basketball, they're all kind of reactive things. So you have to do them you just do them in the moment. Whereas golf, you may have a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to think about what you're going to do with your next shot, which is not easy at all. And it's not something that we will be used to, especially in sport. So I suppose in that sense, it's just trying to change the mindset, right? The sports psychologist or golf psychologist, whoever you're working with, is just here to help you. So they're part of a team that, like, every single professional golfer has a sports psychologist, and they're part of a team. So it's only 1 out of 5. For example, it may be your nutritionist, you'd have your fitness coach, might have your gym coach, you have your swing coach, and you have your golf psychologist. And every single professional golfer just has a sports psychologist as part of the team. There's nothing wrong with any of them golfers, but they're just trying to improve. They're trying to be the best that they can be. So, like I would always say, I think most of the players on the PGA Tour, European Tour, the ladies European, the LPGA Tour, a lot of them are all very, very similar level of golfers, but it's the 6 inches between the head that actually makes the difference for them in the end. As I said, at that level, the players they're so good. They're so good technically. Their swing is so good. They hit the ball so long that there's not actually much difference between them. But when you actually break it down, it's the ones that have the stronger mindset. Like the mindset that Tiger Woods still has, is absolutely incredible. And that was the difference between him being so good for so long, because he knew he was the best. He believed he was the best, and he believed every time he was going out that he was going to win.
Obviously, Tiger Woods is probably an inspiration for on many different levels, but that as well is one of his biggest strengths, wasn't it? His strength of mind over the rest.
Yeah, and he'll have got help with that. We all know the Tiger rule, don't we? After you've had a bad shot, you've got 10 seconds. You know, you have a bit of a duffel, you've missed a putt, you've got 10 seconds to be angry with yourself. Then it's gone. Once that 10 seconds is up, it's gone. But it takes a lot of effort to do that. And for, I've got to be honest, for sort of average Joe people like you and me, Steve, not calling average Joe, of course, but, Tiger would have spent a lot of money on sports psychology and a lot of help to do that. So we don't have that if we're just going around our local golf course on a Thursday morning. If you've got your scorecard in hand and you are playing for your handicap, you've got to find a way to be able to deal with it, and you haven't got any support. So you can still do it. What I did like though is you're playing for what you said there. You're playing for 4 hours. I know this is about junior golf, but junior golf, it's the same. They're just playing probably sometimes a shorter length. But then again, having said that, the Faldo series, the 15, 16-year-olds, they're playing full courses, full rounds. So it's still 4.5, 5 hours at times. You can't be that mentally strong, psychologically strong for 4, 5 hours. You can't be that in the zone for that amount of time. So what do you do in those moments where you're not fully in the zone? How do you fill that void? And you often see pros when you go to events and you see them, you hear certain pros just go off by themselves. They don't talk to their playing partners. And sometimes it looks like, oh, they're really miserable. They're really arrogant. They're really rude. They're not. They're just trying to keep themselves zoned in to play the best golf that they can, because they're not there to play golf for their playing partner. They're there to play golf for themselves.
Okay, hold that thought. Let's ask Robert that exact question. And confidence as well can go up and down within that round of golf that you're talking about, 4 or 5 hour round of golf. You can hit some good shots, you hit some bad shots. How do you control that difficult? How difficult is it to control that emotion? And in particular, How difficult is it for a young junior? This is what Robert had to say about that.
I suppose, as I talked about for a junior, sometimes it can actually be easier because they're actually much better at forgetting things and just letting things go, than I suppose some adults and maybe teenagers would be. I suppose it's very important for them to learn just to move on to the next shot, and that they can't do anything about the last shot. If they've missed a putt, or if they've hit a bad chip, or they've hit a bad drive, that there's absolutely nothing they can do about that. It's gone. There's no way they can ever change it. And it's just about getting into their mindset. Okay, right. So next shot, next shot, next shot. The only thing we can control is the shot we're about to take. So I think that's really, really important. I suppose in terms of confidence, and something that I would choose with a lot of players would be kind of, I would always ask them, how many shots does it take to get your confidence back up? How many shots does it take to lose your confidence? So it only takes one bad shot to lose your confidence, but you may need to hit 500, 1,000 good shots before your full confidence comes back in. So I suppose having that belief in yourself, like two of the most important words for me would be confidence and self-talk. So confidence is obviously, whether you're a junior, whether you're a teenager, whether you're an older player playing golf, confidence is huge. If we don't believe in what we're trying to do, if we don't believe in the shot that we're trying to hit, then it's a lot less likely to happen. So I suppose building that confidence up in the kids themselves, and making them believe, and just forgetting about the previous shot and being able to move on to the next shot and saying, right, I'm going to try again here. I'm going to go again. And let's make the next shot better. And just improving each time. I suppose from a mental side and a mental point of view, it's just making sure that they're kind of learning something each time they go out and play. Right, this is something I can bring into my game. This is something I can do. Because it's difficult. There's so many areas in the golf game that need to be developed from a psychological point of view. So it's preparing for the round, whether that be the night before, or as I talked about, in the car on the way. Then you have kind of just before you're practicing. Then you're going on to the first tee. Then you have, right, I have this shot. I'm looking up, whatever you're seeing water, you're seeing bunkers. So it's developing all that as well. It's having a post-shot routine as well that can just let you forget about what's happening currently, or forget about what's going to happen in the next shot until we actually get to a couple of yards from our ball.
So he's talking about a routine there, pre-shot routine, post-shot routine, and how you need to get into a routine and get your mind into a routine as well. I'm going to move on to something else now, because we want to talk about visualization, and we're going to look at another sport here, because this was brought up in the coaching session which I was at earlier this week. It took me by surprise, because they showed this video clip of two Formula One drivers, two very popular Formula One drivers, people who we know very, very well, Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton. And basically the clip that they showed was the two of them with their eyes closed, visualizing driving around the same Formula One track. Now, Ian, I know that you put this on the system here, but you don't think you've actually seen this clip. So I'm going to ask you questions about what you watch with these two drivers here, and look at them separately and see how they deal with what they're doing and how they visualize the track. And then we'll have a chat about it, and then we'll have a chain chat about what the girls and the coaches, what we spotted in this clip. So let's show the clip. It's about 1.5 minutes long, and it's Jenson Button and it's Lewis Hamilton from about 9 years ago. Fascinating though.
Start. Okay.
Okay. So that was Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton then, visualizing driving around a Formula One track. What did you spot in that, Ian?
I thought Lewis looked more steady. He didn't move, did he, really? Do you know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of body movement with Jenson, a lot of body movement. And Lewis was obviously a lot closer to the time as well. He just looked a bit more focused, I've got to be honest. There was a few more facial expressions from Jenson that you didn't get from Lewis.
Spot on, which is basically what we noticed. The girls noticed it as well, that particularly Jenson Button, big smile on his face, as almost if he was joking about, as if, you know, this was just a bit of a laugh, him doing it with his eyes closed, whereas Lewis Hamilton was more focused. And I was the one actually who spotted the fact that Jenson was moving from side to side, and I was just thinking to myself, in a Formula One car, how much would he actually move from side to side? Because he couldn't physically. Yeah, because obviously,
aren't they? They've moved their head a bit, but that's about it, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, you see. So, and then we kind of come back to the whole point of it, and that's the visualization. Is you visualizing what you were going to be doing out there in your sport. Now, obviously, that's Formula One. Let's look at it from a golf perspective. If you're visualizing hitting a shot, let's say you're hitting a chip shot, why on earth would you be taking the full backswing as your practice swing or your visualization if you're not going to do that when you actually get around to doing it? And that was what was the interesting thing about the visualization, and that all becomes part of the mind of the games. And that's the reason why it's brought up in that golfer section, in the sense of when you are practicing and trying to visualize and trying to do things, do it as if it's for real kind of thing. And I raised the question in the girls group, do any of you do that when you are visualizing your shots? Do you visualize the ball going up in the air, where it's going to land and things like that? And there was one or two of them, I think there was 8 in there. There was one or two of them who put their hands up and said, yes, we did. Whereas there was 5 or 6 of them who didn't, kind of thing. And these are the kind of things which become part of the mind games. We are going to ask the question a little bit later on, talking about different sports. But in your experience in Formula One, is that the norm of what you saw there, or was that a bit of a bit more of a jokey thing for the Formula One drivers?
I think it's difficult to say, isn't it? They're at different stages of their career as well, by the way, Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, when that's taken. I think it comes down to personality a little bit. I think Jenson Button has a bit more. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Jenson Button a couple of times, and he is a really approachable guy, always got a smile on his face. But Lewis Hamilton is perhaps a bit more like your Tiger Woods. He's a bit more, I'd say he's a bit more mentally, psychologically stronger, and perhaps a little bit more focused. And you could argue maybe that's the reason he's a 7-time world champion and Jenson Button's a 1-time world champion. It's not just that, of course. You know, the car obviously has a big factor. But if you've got to put those two together, if I've got a one-off race and it needs to be won, at those two drivers watching that video, if you said you don't know them, but you've got to watch this one video, you've got to choose one driver to go and win you that race, who are you putting your money on? Just from that video, I would say Lewis Hamilton is the stronger mindset one. So I think he's going to win it for me.
Right, let's move on. Let's talk about other subjects within mental strength and psychology in junior golf, and in particular. Let's look, not just look at the juniors then. Let's look at who's watching the juniors, because this can affect juniors and how they deal with it. It could be parents watching them, it could be supporters watching them, it could be the people who they are playing alongside. So how do juniors cope with that? This is what Robert said.
There's nothing we can do about that. Most big competitions, or any competitions, you might get drawn with players that you don't know, or you're playing against somebody who's coming up with kind of little tricks or whatever they're doing to try and put you off your game. So it's about getting into that moment, and obviously trying to stay within your own head the whole way around, which isn't easy. The fact the game goes on obviously for so long, and as I said, we're trying to concentrate and focus for such a long amount of time. I suppose something I get asked a lot about will be kind of playing with kind of slow players and stuff like that. And I would always say that slow player, they're not going to change anything. So what we tend to do as players, so I'm playing with a slow player, what we tend to do, it puts us off our game. We start to rush, we start to change things, and it goes against us. Our whole game just changes. But the person that is actually the slow player, for example. They don't change anything. They keep their technique exactly the same. They keep in the exact same routine because they're in the present moment. They probably don't even realize that they're taking so long, or they don't realize that you're rushing a shot, or that somebody, a parent or whoever it is standing out beside them. That they don't realize that because they're just in the moment. They're just concentrating on their own game. They're not worried about their playing partners. They're not worried about the people ahead of them, behind them. They're not worried about supporters or anyone who's standing beside the green. So it's the most important thing is trying to get in the present moment and be able to kind of block out any distractions that you can control.
Because that's Robert, they're talking about playing partners. Before you come on to you, Ian, let's just hear another clip from Robert then, because he's not just necessarily talking about playing partners here. He's talking about match play golf and the tricks and techniques which players can use to get into the players' minds, and it happens even at junior level, of how they can deal with that. Let's hear what he has to say about that.
Be difficult. It's all about kind of, I suppose, as I said, standing firm and kind of staying in the moment. I've seen numerous tricks from people flashing watches at lights in the sun to God, it can be anything to saying different things to players, obviously, and just trying to put them off their game. And I suppose it's something that we have to learn to be able to control, because I suppose we never know who we're coming up against and kind of exactly what tricks or what they're going to be like, kind of personality wise. So it's really important to just be able to focus on our own game, not be worrying about what they say. I suppose they say something to you, you take it on board, and you just completely forget about it. And I suppose you just need to try and not let them get into your head, because the issue is, if they are, I suppose, mentally stronger than you, then there's a good chance that they're going to come out on top. As I said, a lot of players, you can be playing against someone that's better than you can be playing against someone that's worse than you, and you can still lose because that player is just mentally stronger than you. And as I said, they're trying these little tricks. They might walk ahead of you. Say if they're, I suppose, one thing I've seen is longer off the tee. They're 40 yards longer off the tee. They're walking up. They're standing beside their ball and kind of there in your eye line when you're taking your shot or whatever it may be. So it's simple things like that sound simple, but they can have a huge effect on a player's game, blocking out anything that's said or any tricks they're trying to do, and just kind of concentrating on your own game. And it's something that takes a lot of time. You're not just going to be able to go out and just say, right, I'm going to do this today. So it's maybe there's 10 things you want to build into your game, kind of, I suppose, blocking out distractions, as I talked about earlier, listening to music, just doing different things like that, and just seeing what works for you. So different things will work for different people. And it's just about kind of finding what works for you, and being able to stay in the moment and not let kind of any opponents get into your head, because when they get into your head, it can be very, very hard to come back from that and kind of be able to change the momentum if it does switch in a match play. We know how important momentum can be in golf.
I think a match play, I think it's a beautiful form of the game, but it can also be, it can be harsh at times, can't it? Because we've seen it in the Ryder Cup how, I think one of the sayings is first in wins, because the holding that first putt can make so much of a difference, can't it, in the game of golf?
Yeah, I love match play. It's for me. I know stroke play is, a majority of golf, but match play is person against person, isn't it? It's the most like you can get to a boxing match, isn't it? In golf, one-on-one. Doesn't matter if you're 10 over par. It doesn't matter, because if your opponent basically you just hole by hole, just beat them. And I think that's where.
And the point that you raised earlier, sorry, and interrupted. The point you raised earlier about tennis being similar to golf is the fact that at least in tennis you have a little bit of control if you're the opponent, in the sense of, well, look, if you put it in the corner and put it on the line, it makes it more difficult for the opponent. Yeah. In golf, in that match play scenario, how can you affect the other player? Well, the only way you can affect them is to try and affect their mind, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, you can't play their shot. You can't place their ball. You can't stand in front of them. You can't really distract them. You shouldn't anyway. There's a certain level of etiquette. So yeah, the only way to do it is, we look at that clip with Lewis Hamilton. If I was going toe to toe with Lewis Hamilton, I saw how laser focused he was. immediately I would look at that clip and think I'd fancy taking on Jensen Button a little bit more, because then I'm mentally, psychologically, I'm a little bit more thinking, oh, Lewis is going to be a bit tougher. He's going to be a tougher opponent. So I'd be going into it thinking, like, Lewis would already have a little edge on me, you know.
Do you want to tell you a story? I don't know if you're aware of this, but when Tiger Woods won his first 14 majors, he was leading or co-leading going into the final round. And then on the 15th occasion, he was leading going into the final round and didn't win the tournament. And one of the headlines for a newspaper the following day was "End of an Aura." And I thought, brilliant, because that's exactly got it nailed on, in the sense of that psychological barrier that every other player had when they played against Tiger Woods had gone, because someone had beaten him after he was leading. Of course, he then went and won his 15th major, but he didn't actually lead going into the final round. Ironically enough, of the 15 majors, that was the only one he didn't lead going into the final round.
No, but I wonder as well how many of those 14 majors that he won that he probably shouldn't have won, but the other player sort of almost convinced themselves that they weren't going to win. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of Tiger Woods, it's like, I'm going up against Tiger Woods, I've got no chance. You imagine going in with that, or if somebody was that confident going, no, I'm going to beat this guy. I wonder how many, if mindsets had just been changed. I mean, he still would have won a bucket load, but I wonder if maybe one or two wouldn't have been won if the mindset on the opposition player had been a little bit different. We'll never know, but it's just a thought.
Right, let's finish off then with Robert. Then we've talked about Formula One, we've talked about football. What can junior golf learn from other sports? Because Robert does do coaching with other sports as well, the mental side of it with other sports as well. This is what he had to say about that.
Golf is unique, but we can learn loads of things from different sports, especially, I suppose, in the match play environment you're talking about there, because obviously with other sports, especially the likes of football and soccer and basketball, you're playing against a different team, and I suppose that teamwork, that team ethic, if you're playing, say, doubles in a match play, if you're playing a match for your club, inter-club match, for example, and you've got 5 single matches, wherever it may be, I suppose just working as a team, and sometimes that's where you learn kind of that resilience, to be able to kind of fight back, and I suppose it's just about learning from kind of all the different sports. Like, I suppose one sport I do work with a lot of young people is kind of gymnastics, and they do a lot of training, a lot of coaching, even at a very, very young level. And I suppose it's about bringing kind of, I suppose, different aspects, and kind of one thing is resilience, I suppose. Resilience and confidence and the way you talk to yourself are very important. As I talked about earlier, it's kind of, I suppose, some sports are reactive, some are kind of proactive. So it's bringing kind of as much thing into them sports as possible. The golf is a much more difficult sport than most others. I've actually worked with a few kind of ex-professional footballers, and they would have been on my team in kind of match plays and stuff like that, and they said the pressure going out there in golf is just enormous. They said they never felt that in a football match or in a soccer match, because they always had teammates there. They always had someone to back them up. If they made a mistake, there was someone behind them to help them out. If they weren't playing well, there was 10 other players to go out and kind of do the job for them. Whereas when you go out on the golf course, you're completely on your own. If you start hitting bad shots, the only person that can change that or change your mindset is yourself. So on the teamwork thing, then it is huge, but I suppose it can be bringing the preparation thing from other sports in as well. So how you prepare for games, how you get ready for things like that, especially in match play, because it might be something that we don't play that often. So it's about kind of that development and bringing things in. And as I said, different sports are great for kids, and they learn so much from them. But I just think golf is at another level in comparison to psychology and sports psychology. And as I said, if you don't have the mental side in golf, it's a very, very difficult sport, because the rounds can be so long, and we have so much thinking time kind of before and after our shots.
So this podcast is about junior golf. We've covered lots of different subjects within junior golf, but I'll just tell you a story, Ian, about, I won't name any names of counties, but I do get involved. I am a county organizer for a particular county, and I'm aware of another county who didn't want a psychologist to work with their junior golfers. And I found that astonishing, the fact that they didn't want someone like Robert there involved with their junior golfers. I get it in the sense of, if you've got the wrong person and they're going in there with an adult attitude and trying to teach the wrong things and the wrong way of going about it, I get that. But I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to use this type of thing to help your junior golfers. Just makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does to me too. As I said at the top of the show, I think sports psychology is arguably the most important thing, or shall I say the quickest way to get some improvement. You know, if you're a good golfer, let's say, if you're me, for example, so I'm about a 20 handicapper, okay, if I wanted to drop shots quickly and if I wanted to get down to 14, I should be able to do that relatively easily. Do you know what I mean? If I just upped the amount of time I play and had a few lessons and I was a bit more consistent, I could drop those shots. But to get from 14 to 10 or to get 14 to single figures, I can do it by getting it right here. Because if I can play off 14, I can play off 10. The problem is consistency. I can't do it enough times. And one of the issues I can't do it enough times is because I don't have it strong enough up here. And it might not necessarily just be ability at that point. It might be more psychological.
I'll tell you, just finally, I'll tell you one story about, I played in a media competition once. I played in a few, but I played in one whereby I was third going into the final round. And I was reading this book called Bounce by the table tennis player Matthew Syed. I don't know if you're aware of Matthew Syed. He does another podcast somewhere else with someone else. But anyway, and I got to I was reading the book and I got to and I thought, I wonder what the next page is. And the next chapter was how to win a competition. I thought, I'm going to have to read this. I'm third going to the final round. So I read the chapter, got to the event the following day, got to the first hole, played the first hole, and I walked off the first green and I thought, I've won this tournament. Because the two players who were ahead of me, one of them hit it out of bounds with his first tee shot, and the person who was second hit it to 3 foot and missed the birdie putt. And I walked off that green knowing I'd beaten both of them already. And I did. I won by 7 shots in the end because I knew that I got them straight away. And that's the power of psychology. I wish I could bottle it. I've never done it again since. But in that particular moment in time, I knew that I'd got the better of them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that is the power of the mind. That's the way it can work. That's the way whereby I had full confidence in not necessarily my own ability, but I had my full confidence in the fact that if I had a bad hole, I would still be a lot better off than those two were in that particular moment in time. If I'd have been playing against Sevi, if I'd have been playing against someone else, kind of thing, you know, and some friends who I know are super competitive, and you know, I might not have been quite so confident. But in that scenario, I knew I had won basically. So I think I won. I think I won a round of drinks. that was my prize. So big money I was playing for. Yeah, absolutely. Right. That wraps up the podcast. Then we've been covering psychology in junior golf. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do want, and if you do need any advice about this, then please get in touch and we'll point you in the direction of Robert if you want to talk to him, if you want to get him involved. The professional I was telling you about who did the coaching earlier this week was Samantha Head, who's a 2-time winner on the Ladies European Tour. She specialises in the mental side of the game as well. So if you ever want to get in touch with her, then I certainly recommend it. It was fantastic and fascinating what she did with the youngsters in that particular room, and and I certainly recommend that anyone does do that with junior golfers. If it's your club, it's your county, or whatever it happens to be, I think it's going to be beneficial for everyone involved. Just to give you a bit of a heads up what we've got coming up podcast wise, the next podcast we're going to be doing is in a couple of weeks time, and we're going to do volunteering in junior golf. We've got the England Golf Volunteer of the Year is going to be coming on the show, so it's going to be fascinating talking to Abby Frobson. She won the award a couple of months ago, and another junior who's going out and volunteering, going to go out to South America, I think it is, and going on a trip there. I think it's part of the Scouts, but he's involved his golf club and trying to raise some money to try and to help out with that kind of thing. So a slightly different story, but still to do with volunteering and how you can get involved and how you can help, get your golf get the golf industry involved in volunteering. So something slightly different from what we're doing today. And of course, it's relevant for adults as well, because there's plenty of adults who are volunteers out there. There's 2 who are presenting this podcast who are volunteers, aren't there, Ian?
Yeah.
Don't get paid for doing this, and we're out there. We are here to help you and help junior golf out there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a subject which we want to cover, and we've got other ones coming up about junior golf clothing, about sponsorship, about academies, caddying. We might do another rules quiz. So lots of different things which are going to be covered in the weeks and months ahead. But I do hope you've enjoyed the golf psychology one for junior golf today, and we shall catch up with you soon. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye bye.